Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Alhak. I am from English Literature B. Today, I would like to review journal. The title is The Impact of Racism on Characters in Harper Lee's novel To Kill a Mockingbird. For the introduction, To Kill a Mockingbird serves as a powerful social commentary on the issues of racism. The novel explores the way in which racial stereotype, prejudice, and discrimination can have detrimental impact on both the victims of racism and the perpetrators. Through the character of Tom Robinson, an African American man falsely accused of a crime, Lee illustrates the systematic racism that was prevalent in the South during the 1930s. Harper Lee's novel To Kill a Mockingbird is a classic work of literature that has a significant impact on the way that race and racism are perceived and addressed in society. Set in the deep South during the 1930s, the novel tells the story of a young white girl named Scott Finch who witnessed the racism and prejudice that her community has toward African Americans. This is the character of Harper Lee's novel. There are Atticus Finch, John Finch, Scott Finch, Tom Robinson, Alexandra, and Bob Ewell. For the theoretical frameworks, racism encompasses various forms like racial prejudice, racial stereotypes, and racial discriminations. There are two impacts of racism. The first one is psychological impact, and the second one is social impact. The psychological impact, one of the most significant ways in which racism can harm psychological is by causing feelings of stress and anxiety. When individuals are subjected to racist actions, they may experience feelings of fear, anger, and helplessness. For the social impact, racism can lead to the unequal distribution of resource opportunities and privilege based on race. This can result in individuals and groups being marginalized and excluded from participating fully in society. For the method used by this writer is qualitative. The method is used by the researcher because it is an accordance with the study conducted, namely describing the character as an object discussed in the research. In the process of describing it, the writer used a characterization method based on Lawrence Perrin. To describe the characters being analyzed, both of the depiction of the character directly through the author's story and without the presence of the author through the appearance or actions of the character themselves in the story. For the finding and discussions, the the first data it's about psychological impact. We can see this conversation here say that it ain't right, Atticus, said Jim. No, son, it's not right. Aunt Alexandra was waiting up. She was in her dressing gown. I'm sorry, brother, she murmured. Have you never heard her call Atticus brother before? I stole a glance at Jem. But he was not listening. He would look up at Atticus, then down at the floor, and I wondered if he thought Atticus was somehow responsible for Tom Robinson's convictions. After Atticus' defense, not only did his life change, but the life of his children, Scott and Jem too. Atticus and his family feel the psychological impact after Tom Robinson lost in court. Atticus is down and feeling guilty. Even her sister Alexandra felt the same sadness and show an attitude she was not used to. So this is what's that? This is the conversation between character Jem Finch, Atticus Finch, and Alan Alexandra. The conversation is taking place after the trial and conviction of Tom Robinson, Black men falsely accused of crime. Jadi keluarga Finch ini juga merasakan dampak negatif secara psikologi karena kalah dalam persidangan, sehingga James mengekspresikan kekecewaan dan frustasinya itu terhadap hasil persidangan yang dianggapnya nggak adil. Kemudian si Atticus setuju dengan James. Dan also uh, shows that uh, Jem is not listening to Aunt Alexandra's apology and is talking about the justice of the situation. The data highlights psychological impact of the character with the outcome of the trial. Atticus setuju sama si Jem karena ketidakberdayaannya dia atau ketidakmampuannya dia untuk memberikan solusi dalam menghadapi rasisme dan ketidakadilan tersebut. Next, the second data, it's still about psychological impact. The psychological impact also appears to Scott among her friends. All of Scott's friends assumes that Scott is no longer part of their group. They stay away from Scott and no one cares about her. This makes Scott sad and she thought about leaving school because her days at school were very unpleasant. Scott avoids school for various reasons as explaining in the excerpt below. Besides, my father looked at me mildly, assuming in his eyes despite our compromise, my campaign to avoid school had continued in one form or another since my first day. Thus of it, the beginning of the last September had both on sneaking spells, dizziness, and mild gastric complaints. I went so far as to pay a nickel for the privilege of rubbing my head against the head if Miss Russell's coxswain, who was afflicted with a tremendous ringworm, I didn't take. This data describe the main characters Scott Finch and Scott Finch uh, Scott Finch effort to avoid going to school. Scott mentioned that she has been using various tactics to avoid attending school since her uh, of first day of classes, including faking illness, such as sneaking spells, dizziness, and stomachache. She also mentioned that she even paid a nickel to rub uh, her head against the head of Miss Russell Coxon, who had ringworm, and the hope it that she would also get the disease and able to attend school. Jadi, Scott Finch juga mengalami dampak psikologi yang menyebabkan ketidaknyamanan sehingga dia nggak nyaman buat pergi ke sekolah. Next, the third data is about social impact. The social impact of white supremacy on the people of my camp opposed the liberalism held by Atticus. Come here, Scott, said Atticus. I crawled into his lap and tucked my head under his chin. He put his arm around me and rocked me gently. It's different this time, he said. This time we aren't fighting the Yankees, we are fighting our friends. But remember this, no matter how bitter things get, they are still our friends, and this is still our home. This is conversation between the main character Scott Finch and her father Atticus Finch regarding Atticus' decision to defend his client Tom Robinson, who is black. He tells her that their current situation is different from past events, as they are now fighting against their friends instead of an external enemy. He also emphasized that the bitterness and the conflict that are arising, the people they are fighting against, they are still their friends, and the town they live in is still their home. Jadi kata-kata Atticus ini menggambarkan tentang hubungan manusia dengan gagasan bahwa orang bisa memiliki perspektif yang beda tapi tetap peduli satu sama lain, dan dia juga menyampaikan tentang pentingnya menjaga pemahaman yang luas dan gagasan bahwa bahkan dalam situasi sulit pun rumah dan komunitas seseorang tuh harus dihargai dan dihormati. Next, for the last data, it's about social impact. I ran in the direction of James' scream and sank into a flabby male stomach, and its owner said, ah, and tried to catch my arms, but they were tightly pinioned. His stomach, his stomach was soft, but his arms were like steel. He slowly squeezed the breath out of me. I could not move. Suddenly, he was jerked backward and flat on the ground, almost carrying with him. I followed James up. The data is described a sense where Jem and Scott experience. They both are seeing physical harm by Bob Evil. Scott is running in the direction of her brother James scream and runs into the stomach of the man. The man tries to grab her arms, but they are pinned down and he starts to squeeze the breath out of out, out of her, making it hard her to move. Suddenly, the man is pulled away the thrown on the ground, leaving Scott to think that it was her brother Jem who saved her. The passage used emergency to describe the man's stomach as flabby and his arm as steel, um, to convey the contrast between the man's soft exterior and his threat. Scott also demonstrated the fear and vulnerability that she feels in the moment of being attacked, and the relief she feels when she is safe. Mm, the last one is conclusion. To Kill a Mockingbird is a novel that delves into various aspects of human experience and can be analyzed through character theory. The setting of the novel takes place in the racial charged town of Maycomb in the American South, where white people consider themselves superior to black people. This belief is used to justify the racism per- perpetrated perpetuated against black people in the novel. The impact of racism is directed toward several characters in the story, including Atticus Finch, Jem Finch, Scott Finch, and Alexandra Finch. They experience both psychological and social effects such as fear, sadness, trauma, and a conflict of man versus society when they try to help Tom Robinson from legal trouble. I think that's all from me. Thank you for listening. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.